Hello, welcome back. It's me again, and it's the beginning of 2021, and we're all going to be going back into lockdown again because of this virus thing. So, in the interest of keeping myself amused, I've been on the internet, looking at stuff, and I came across Natalie Wood. Now, I don't really remember Natalie Wood very well. She died in 1981 in very suspicious circumstances, and I've been looking into her case, and I'm not going to drag it out and make it a big long one. The last person to see her alive was her husband Robert Wagner, who's a famous Hollywood actor, okay, and he was on his boat, she was on his boat, and then her body was recovered from the sea the next morning, 8 hours later. Argument took place about 12 o'clock at night, and somehow she finished up in the water. Now, the woman had the fear of water, okay. Now, they said that the cause of death was hypothermia and drowning, okay. And it was initially put down to an accident. But there was some, as you know, with pathologist reports, they lay the body out and they examine it very closely. And she had marks on the side of her face here. She was bruised. She was pissed as well. Don't forget, he was pissed. They had a drunken argument about goodness knows what. And she had marks on her forearm here as well. Now, I'm really not familiar with the case. I didn't know either of them. Never met either of them, and I'm just like speculating here. I'm not making any accusations in any way, but what I'm just looking at the facts. I'm following the facts here, okay. He was definitely the last person to see her alive, okay, and they were having an argument at the time to do with it's made out that she was flirting with Christopher Walken, who just got his Oscar for The Deer Hunter, and he was jealous, and maybe he was, maybe he wasn't, but accusations have been made that Robert Wagner murdered Natalie Wood, and maybe he did, maybe he didn't, I don't know, but one thing struck me as really obvious, and that was that nobody heard the engine. I mean, he claimed she jumped in the boat and did one. And he said, don't search for her, don't search for her, don't put the light on. Searchlight, because the captain was going, well, what's happening? Natalie's gone. But she had marks here, on this side of her face. She had a coat on, and she had bruising to her forearm. Now, if you're having a drunken row with your partner, and you're really angry with her, let's just suppose he thought, fuck it, I'm gonna teach her a lesson, and he put his arm round her face, and she's got her arms up, and he's got his other arm, his left arm, on her forearm there, and he's grappling with her to the gate at the back of the boat, right? He's going to the gate at the back of the boat. Fuck off, Lobo, splash. And she's in the water, and he goes, ha! There, that'll teach you a lesson. Anyway, she's swum to the dinghy, and she's clinging onto the dinghy. Right, and he's thought, oh, you're going to climb into the dinghy, are you? Here you go. And he's just undid the ropes on the dinghy and gone, fuck off. Ha! And he's stood in the back of his boat while she's there fucking shouting and screaming. Or maybe she was shouting and screaming it, I don't know, wasn't there? I'm only speculating here, this is pure speculation, there's no accusations gone down. But if that was the case, and if that really happened, then he's not really guilty, is he, of murdering her? Or is he? Let's just suppose that's how it went down. Okay. And she's there clinging to the boat and drifting off into the night. And he's there, no, don't search for her. No, don't call anybody. No. Anyway, next morning, 8 hours later, their body's found close to the rubber dinghy. It's floating in the water, dead. Hypothermia, drowning. That was what the coroner's report said the cause of death was. But other information has come to light over the years. I mean, it was a long time ago, 1981. It was like 40 years ago. And other information has come to light. And the police in America want to talk to Robert Wagner, right, who doesn't want to make any comment. It's his right. He's saying nothing. Now, every criminal knows, right, you get dragged into the cells and put in the interview room, you zip it, you say nothing. That's exactly what Wagner's doing now. And there was another thing. Oh yeah, that was November 1981. So he's there, he's distraught. Oh my God, she's died! No. A few weeks later, no, more than that, Valentine's Day, in fact, the following year, which November to February is a matter of weeks, was it 12 weeks? He's dating the woman who is his wife now to this day. He's been married to her for years. So he was that broken up and distraught about it that he just thought, fuck it, I'll marry someone else who looks like her. So, I mean, I don't know, I'm only speculating. But I mean, that could have happened, couldn't it? That could be a scenario that plays out. I guess the ball is in the court, really, of the police department, Los Angeles Police Department. And they say he's not a murder suspect. But I think what probably happened is he pushed her in the water, cut the dinghy loose and went, fuck you, I'll teach you a lesson. Because don't forget, the man's drunk. He don't give a fuck, right? He's not thinking straight. I don't think for one moment that the man intended to cause her death. Not for a moment. But if he was guilty, because it's all a bit dodgy, isn't it? If you look at the evidence, I'm just a complete outsider here. I'm just reading what I can see on the internet. And I think to myself, well, that's probably what happened. What would Columbo do? Remember Columbo? He'd go, well, there's just a few things bothering me, sir. You see, in his style. Columbo would not let this man off the hook. He would have probed, especially since he lied to begin with. He lied. He said he'd gone to bed and he woke up in the morning and she was gone. And that's not true, is it? It's absolutely not true at all. So, who knows? But that's my take on the situation. Like I said, I'm not making accusations. But just as a complete outsider, looking at the case from my point of view of boredom, sitting in my house during the COVID-19 and just trawling around things and found this thing on Natalie Wood, who was born in the 30s. I mean, she'd be really, really old then if she was still alive. But, hey, what do you make of it? If you're interested, look into the story and see what you think. If you were so in love with your darling and she died in tragic circumstances, would you really enter another relationship just a few weeks later and get married again and go, I'm not talking to the police anymore about anything. I think I've got away with it. Well, he's 90. Come on, he's 90 now, and if he did play any role whatsoever in her entering the water, shall we say, and failing to assist her in getting back out of the water. He's got away with it, hasn't he? Scot-free. Columbo would be turning in his grave. Okay, I've got an update on the Natalie Wood case. I've been looking at all kinds of pictures, and I've been particularly interested in the boat, Splendor. It's not a very nice boat. It did surprise me that someone with as much money as Wagner would have bought such a horrible boat. It's not a very well designed boat. Looking at the state of it, I would say it was probably built in the 1960s. It could even have been earlier, could have been as early as the 50s. It looks like a wooden boat. Now, I'm quite familiar with boats. I've had a wooden boat myself, and I've still got a 45-footer twin engine. Very similar, but mine was like late 60s, early 70s. Very similar, but more modern, you know. And I'm particularly interested in the back cabin. I know they call them staterooms. They're always referring to the stateroom this, the stateroom. He went to his state. They're not staterooms. They're cabins. Okay, they're quite dingy cabins. This boat had 4 cabins. One right in the bow with bunks on diagonals. That's normal. That's where you put your deckhand or your crew. And 2 bunks forward of the lounge, and they're just little tiny cabins with bunks in them. The biggest cabin of all was the one at the back, and this is particularly bad design. I thought. I've looked at pictures of the interior of it, and there's not much room in it, and that would be where the people who own the boat sleep, because it's the biggest and it's the best one. But it's a far cry from a stateroom, I can assure you. And the other thing is, you can't get onto the boat without walking through the stateroom at the back, the back cabin, okay? Unless you climb up on the outside and walk down the deck, on the outside, and then climb into the wheelhouse or something like that. It's a really bad design. And the one thing I did notice is the bed. Okay, the bed is a particularly horrible design, which I had the same very similar bed, which pulled out as a sofa bed. You can put it away and just use it as a sofa. And the bed goes underneath the deck. And if you look at this particular boat, Splendor, same configuration, only I don't think it was a sofa bed, it was just a bed. But the bed does extend under the deck outside, so you can walk across. And on the other side of the cabin, presumably, I think there was drawers and cupboards, and they go under the deck as well, to make use of that space. And you think about it, I've actually had a very similar bed, and when it was configured as a sofa bed, it was pushed in, and you go to sit down and like, you crack your head on the window, on the wall, because it sticks out. There was a few people come onto our boat and sit on they just slumped into the sofa as you would in a house, and cracked your head against the bloody wall which is behind you. And I've been looking at these pictures of that cabin, and I've thought to myself, he's pushed her back onto the bed and she's cracked her head on that wall. And then she's finished up dead on the bed. That's what that's what I think. Because she was dressed in a nightie and a coat and some socks. So I mean, was she wearing that upstairs when the argument was taking place? When Wagner was smashing his bottle and going, "You want to fuck my wife?" I mean, probably not. She was probably wearing what she had on in the restaurant, and she's gone down to the room where she's put a nightdress on, and women put a nightdress on before they go to bed. Okay, that's generally the intention of doing that. Right? It's probably had a ciggy on the back deck with the coat on, and they've had arguments and shouting. But she's intended to go to bed, so I don't think Walken or Dennis the deckhand saw her in that nightie in the lounge area. So, I mean, she's gone downstairs with the intention of going to bed, which is quite obvious. They've had this argument, they've been pushing each other. I've been looking at that cabin. If you're having a row with your missus and you're pushing each other and shouting in each other's faces, that's the one thing they're going to trip on, is the bed. Right, and if you trip on the bed and you're heading backwards, you're definitely going to crack your head on that wall, without a doubt. That's another scenario. Now, if you had a domestic row and you'd pushed your wife and she tripped over that bed and bashed her head and she's expired due to a trauma to the back of the fucking head, which is extremely likely, what is that, murder or is that an accident? I don't know. I don't know what the law is in America. It's a bit different to the UK.